First, I want to recognize that I've heard either in person or by email from Barbara Moran, Chad Wadsworth, Dr. Shoddy, Anthony Mann, and Dee Holland, and by way of email, Denise Torkelson, Danielle Gersh, Barbara Moran, Crystal Moskowitz, Mary Fife, and Wendy Calvin. Know that I take your input and consider it carefully. VHS graduation was awesome. I'd driven straight from San Diego, and Tim helped me get up on the stage late without anyone knowing. Thank you. Meadowlark, back to the graduation. I thought that speeches by the school staff were very meaningful. Mike, I very much appreciated your gracious and humbleness in your comments as the board president. And it's the best thing for me because the graduates that I see come up on the stage, they're the beacon of what our community is all about to this world out there, so I'm very proud of you all. Meadowlark, I liked the format of what you guys did with the kids this year. There was balloons at the end. It wasn't everybody walking across the stage, but people were recognized for their academic performance, their attendance, and their improvements and things like that, and it was meaningful, and it wasn't because if we have advancement ceremonies for every grade will be there forever, and I probably won't live that long, but I really liked your format, and it was meaningful to the parents, and I very much appreciated the teachers that were there literally being cheerleaders. Thank you, Ms. Toledo, for a wonderful year of service to the district. The iLead events, they actually had me go in to talk about my work with community master planning with people who share my level of intellect, first graders, and it was very profound because little kids will tell you the most awesome things before they get their mind polluted by the world. So I very much enjoyed that. Having the parents, having someone graduate with a baby in their arms is just kind of something that in the greater part of the world, I'm glad that we're able to service those kids, because for them to get through high school while raising an infant by themselves or with a little help from the family is just something that's incredible, and I hope they can recognize that getting through that at this age is something that they're prepared to face any challenge. So I'm glad that we have that. The iLead community event was awesome, considering that we had a charter shutting down over there and there was a lot of dismay over that. It was incredible. VHS, PTSO, you were there, and I think that adds to the mix. And did you really win, Lee? Anyway. I'm worried about y'all, your family there. Do you all have a structural permit for your floors in your house? Because you've won a lot of awards, and I'm concerned about your safety. Okay, now for a little bit of unpleasantry. I went down to San Diego County and watched some people be indicted for theft of public funds to the tune of $50 million. Over 2 years. And what was really amazing is some of those people that were hauled off in handcuffs to make bail had actually stood at that podium right there and asked and were kind of dodgeball my questions. So shout out to Mr. Reed. If you go back to those videos, those exchanges between me and those people, it's pretty telling. The one indictment that I'm looking at, by the way, the indictment listed this district or references to this district in six places, and they were more about what was being told to our questions at that podium. The one indictment that I'm really looking at closely is the indictment of the superintendent that sponsored all of those charters. It's very clear to me that that superintendent did not profit from this personally, but I think either the DA is either trying to make something stick by making a criminal offense out of charging more than what the actual cost recovery was, and knowing what I know about law, that's not the proper venue to do that. A criminal court case isn't. But I think they're trying to pressure up on her to find out where the direction to start this program to do this came from, what the motivations were, and maybe possibly to find out who was encouraging that superintendent to go like this to the tune of $50 million. Anyway, I'm very proud of the way that this district asks very tough questions, and I'm very proud of those charters that give us the answers to those questions. I'm proud of the way that our team vets charters, and the iLead thing is a perfect example of something that's meaningful and not something to be tainted by the actions of a few. Finally, I want to talk about High Desert. The promotion was great, loved it, it's always great. But the open house, Mr. Mann addressed this a little bit earlier. There was a lot of apprehension about what was going to happen over there. The community they weren't really good about what had happened with this campus and why it wasn't available. I want to congratulate Mr. King and his staff and the facilities staff, Lynn, and your team for finally getting DSA stuff out of the way here for this campus. But that transition over there didn't just happen. I think what made it meaningful was we had some veteran teachers and veteran staff that went over there and were the example. Some of the older kids had been through these teachers' classes. While Ms. Trussell had Mr. King pinned down in the room, I had a conversation with Mr. Pelham, Ms. Larson, and Ms. Lapp, and I let them know that I thought they had a very meaningful role to play. I want to run Mr. Pelham up the flagpole a little bit here. You know, I never hear from Mr. Pelham. He never has the word to say, but you hear all kinds of things about him in the community, and they're positive things, and he represents the brand that I want this district to have. And I want to thank him for showing a steady face, whether he's in a public conversation or a private conversation. He's the brand of this district, really, and people like him, and we have a lot of teachers like that. But what I do want to point out is, while I was telling them about how important they were, they diverted the attention to an employee that supports them, and I'm going to track that employee down tomorrow and give them one of these. So try and guess who it is. I've got bids up on eBay, as usual, but you'll know soon. I thought it was very impressive that they would talk about one of the support team as being even more critical in the transition over there. The parents that help with this, Mr. Mann, Ms. T, you really made it to where kids feel safe there, and now they're too cool and too grown up for some of the stuff they used to do. But anyway, I believe that's it. Thank you. I have a question. Who's the leadership team that participated in this?
The leadership team that participated is Eleanor Short, Special Education SCC, Michelle Van Ornum, 8th grade math, ASB, and yearbook and videography, Kayla Scripture, Social Studies, Coding and Game Design, Marilyn Alford, Medal of Honor, Science 8, Diana Spiegel, I know I'm thinking 5th grade is in here. Diana Spiegel from 6th grade team. Those same people are on our leadership team. And stepping in for 5th grade is Alexa Leff. So that is our current 1920 leadership.
So there's plenty of input from the staff and teachers.
Yes.
Thank you. I remember sitting out there like 4 years ago and hearing that the prediction was that our school enrollment would be in the 900s. I recall that. I would say that more so than a kid leaving and a couple of population bubbles floating through, we've been pretty much able to retain our student base here. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Lynn, when at the beginning of this year, you didn't have LACO coming back to you and say, adjust your fund balance because we see you moving money around and we can't figure out why. That was nice for a first. Thank you. I want to talk about something. So you remember I mentioned a little bit earlier about the motivation of the DA in San Diego that we would look at a superintendent and say, you're charging X amount of money for oversight, so the 1% plus 2, and that you actually should be charging what actual cost is, meaning that there would be absolutely no revenue generation. You're just covering costs, and that's pretty typical in public sector. Where I work, our fees and schedules go out to city council, and they're really cognizant of this actually costs this, and this isn't a money generating thing. But that said, I don't think throwing stuff at the wall to see what will stick down there is a way to set what limits or what should be. That should be a legislative action in my mind. So I think the motivation might be a little bit different, to pressure up on some people. I want to tell you this, even in my world, I need actually 2 cells in an Excel spreadsheet. One of them shows my ADA, and one of them that shows my revenue. And I need a formula that says, if this one kid gets this much money, then it's pretty easy to look at it and say, okay, there's a big difference here. I believe that you've submitted personally or been involved in submittal personally of numerous budgets to LACO. I think they've approved them. And I think if they've got that same simple spreadsheet that I would use, they're aware that a significant part of our revenue comes from charter oversight. Would that be accurate?
That's true.
Okay. Have they ever kicked your budget back for that or told you that it might be a negative certification? I don't recall that happening.
That's correct.
I believe that about the time that I came on the board, we'd been criticized, the district, at the state level for charging 3.5% by the assembly chair of the education committee asking our former superintendent why they were charging 3.5. So this board actually took action to make sure that the legal limit was being met, and that was through the action, and that preceded you. So the point is, Lynn is managing through a situation with parameters that have been set, budgets that have been approved by LACO. Lynn does not approve her own budget. It seems to me that there's a trend going on here that some of the earliest charters that came in here, I'm not going to call names out, but there's a block of them that came in here and were approved through, and now it seems that those same ones are floating off to somewhere. I think it's accurate to say that our charter oversight staff looks at charters and says, hey, we've got a question about this, we need to know more information about that. And when that information isn't known for one reason or another, they're encouraged to look it over and come back. And I think some of these charters have made several submittals during the year and adjusted things. So it was likely that when they came forward, staff wouldn't be embarrassed by recommending a charter that wasn't ready to bake yet. I think that's accurate. Some of these charters that are not coming back, I don't know if it's purely a coincidence, but there's a group that are running over to Lucerne Valley to join our former superintendent, former director of education, and former finance director with their charter over there. And I'm not sure what's so attractive about that being over there. All things being the same, maybe it's just me sitting on this board that's a problem now. But I do believe that when I ran, and I don't have to campaign anymore because this will be it. When I ran for school board, my first goal was to reduce dependence on out-of-boundary charters. And it wasn't because I had a problem with charters. It was because the obvious paint was it's staring you at the wall, and it's hitting right now. So all that said, we want to remember that people that jump counties, they set up charters here so they can attract from here and near. So some of the charters that used to be here could actually draw down on enrollment, on our enrollment now, and I'm pretty confident, given the quality of our program and what we offer, that is what did I write here? Likely to be very insignificant. So when it comes to the charter revenue, I'm glad that we didn't, Lynn, I'll fight with you over a penny to turn it into wire. And I'm glad you have that this charter revenue is going to fluctuate. I think the number gains that you're seeing in P2, tell me if this isn't correct. If I tell you that I'm going to give you $2,700 and you could literally use that to buy Disneyland Family Pass tickets and call it Steam, your enrollment might go up over somebody that's not going to give you Disney tickets, right? Is that theoretically correct?
That's theoretically correct.
And I'm sure I can find examples on the internet right now, maybe in some of these people that aren't coming back, that that's exactly what's going on. But you have no control over that. Would you say that people who are used to going to charters are likely to continue to go to charters, and the fact that we're creating a very stable environment for people like iLead, that they might not want to go through what they've gone through, some of these shutdowns. They might be actually moving to someone that they feel the brand is more stable.
I think from following, Ms. Travis and I have followed some of the internet, Facebook things related to our charters that are closing, and I know that there was a lot of angst amongst families. I know that when Einstein closed, there was a lot of angst amongst families, and I believe that our families are looking for stability.
Yeah, and I think they found it. So I appreciate that we actually ask questions and stuff, because a lot of the questions I used to ask are about what people have been indicted for now. So I'm hoping that everything stabilizes. I'm hoping that the measurability of these programs is such that people stay there. And going back to the little programs where 23 people are graduating that would have been kind of pushed off by society, we do serve some students that I think are very meaningful. So everybody understand, Lynn was dealt the hand she has. Look at the math, see what people are trying to do. Understand that the charter business is collapsing for the lower performers, and that our board is looking at this thinking, you know what, we're going to make sure that we validate that you deserve to be in the education business. So thank you for your patience.